Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about how to refine our sketch that we started earlier and about how to add shading to that sketch to really bring it to life. So all you need is the photo that you took for your drawing on the paper, and a pencil. All right, I have my photo here. I'm putting that next to me, but I'm going to put that on the screen as well so that you can see it. So let's talk about refining our drawing. The first thing that I like to do after I've done my sketch is erase most of the lines and create what I call a ghost image. So you see I've done that over here. I don't want to erase them completely. I still want to be able to see it, but I want these lines light enough so that as I rework the drawing, I don't see all of my sketch lines through it. I'm using a kneaded eraser right now to do that, but you can use any old eraser. Even a pencil eraser is fine, as long as you don't press too hard. Now I'm going to start refining the drawing. Now I've started doing that already with the flower pot so that you can see what I mean. And this is where I'm going back over lines, choosing which line from my sketch I like the best, changing them if I need to, and then I'm going to start to add shading. So let's do some refining work to the panda, because I just love this panda over here. I'm looking now at the ear shapes, and because the panda is a little fuzzy and even the sculpture of it is kind of fuzzy, I'm using these small marks to draw and fill in some of these shapes. Now the ear I know is a really dark area, so I'm going to start filling that in. One of the big things that I recommend that you do with your drawing is start looking at where the really light areas are, where the really dark areas are, so that you can get a good sense of where your values are going to be as you're shading. So as I'm starting to refine this drawing of the panda here, I'm noticing that the shapes of the ears aren't exactly what I had before, and that's okay. And I also see that this eye doesn't go right to the edge, and I had drawn it that way earlier, so I'm going to have to change the edge here a little bit. And in the sketch, I was drawing very loosely and quickly to get basic shapes. Now is when I'm starting to refine those shapes to get the drawing the way that I want it. A lot of this is still all about looking at what shapes you have, how large they are, where these things line up with each other. So, all right, I've started sketching this out. Now, something I see all the time when young people start doing drawings is they'll say, well, the head of the panda is white, and its ears and its eyes are black, so I've shaded that. But that's not necessarily the case. So if I look at my original image, actually I'm going to zoom this in right here so you can see it. This side of the panda's face is bright white because that's catching a highlight from my light source. But this side of the panda's face is all shaded. Now it's not nearly as dark as the black areas, but it shouldn't be bright white. So what I'm going to do is start to sketch in an edge for where that shading is, and it comes onto the nose a bit. And I'm going to start to just very lightly add that shading. Now when you're shading, there are a couple of things to think about. The first one is pencil pressure, right? You can create all kinds of values with shading by how hard or how lightly you press with your pencil. If you press really hard, you get these dark black areas like I have here. If you press very, very lightly, you get a really light gray. And right here, I've done kind of a middle tone. Now, the other thing to think of are the marks that you're making with the pencil. Because pencils make lines, right? So if you do lines straight across, you're going to get hatching, which is a type of shading that uses parallel lines. Now, you can do hatching in multiple directions and get cross hatching. You can use the side of your pencil lead to get a very smooth value. Here that is a gradation where it just fills in nice and smoothly. But I like to use the end of my pencil and run that back and forth and just keep those lines very close together. Because for me, that's the easiest to control. And you see, if you use the side of your pencil, like here, can you see that better? It makes it smooth, but there's all this white area that's still showing through. When I've used the tip of the pencil, it's a lot easier to control the shading when I use the tip of my pencil versus using the side of the pencil. So these are all things to think about. Now, something else that I want to mention that I notice with a lot of beginning artists is that they use the eraser as a way to fix mistakes, but I look at an eraser as a drawing tool. So, for example, I've shaded this in solid, but there's a little highlight right inside of the ear here where it gets a little bit lighter. So I'm going to use the eraser to put that in. There's a little highlight on the ear, a little highlight on this ear as well, and there are little light areas right inside of the eyes. So I'm going in and use the eraser to add those areas. So I'm going to add some little mark making here because I know that the surface of the panda, little statue that I have, is not smooth. And even in the shaded areas, there are some parts that are really light and some parts that are a little bit darker. So I'm going to start adding in some of those other values. Okay, so now I'm working on the cast shadow that the panda casts onto the book that it's standing on. Now, cast shadow is when an object blocks the path of the light. So right now that is the panda that is blocking the light onto the top of the book. So in my image, now it's very hard to see where the legs of the panda end and the shadow begins because they're both very dark. Cast shadow is darkest at the edge of the object, and it's lighter as it moves away from that object. Now, my cast shadow here does not have a sharp edge in the photo. But in the photo here, this shadow is a very soft edge. So I'm going to blend that out a little bit using just a piece of paper towel or a tissue or a napkin, something like that. I'm going to use some circular motions with that towel, and that's going to blend out the edge of my cast shadow. Now, I know some people blend it with their fingers. I personally don't like that. Your fingers have a lot of oil on them just naturally. So as you smudge that, the oil mixes with the pencil, and sometimes it really looks yucky. Now I'm going to go in with the eraser. And now I'm going back with the pencil and cleaning up the edges of those eraser marks. And it's going to really give me some nice texture on this panda. So don't be afraid to use your eraser, whether you're fixing mistakes or you're drawing. Ta-da, a panda. All right, I hope this video helped you. Please keep working on it this week and upload photos to the Google Classroom to show me how you're progressing. I'm going to leave comments for you on areas that might need work or tips and suggestions for you as you go. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out, and I hope this video helped you. I'm excited to see what you work on.